Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Doc Huddle, your gateway to an in-depth connection between sports medicine and the latest events in sports, fantasy, and betting. Today's show is brought to you by the Health and Wellness Depot. Unlock the power of well-being. I'm Dr. Mikey B. With me, as always, Dr. MJB, the legend, and CJ, the sports enthusiast. Gentlemen, happy Wednesday.
How we doing?
Doing well, doing well. Looking forward to today's show as there's plenty of news around the NFL. Yeah, with that being said, let's just get it started.
All right, so the first thing we're going to discuss is Sam Hubbard's retirement.
Yeah.
Shocking news. Recently just found that out.
out.
So I want to know what you guys' thoughts on that.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike. Take it away.
Yeah, I was very surprised. This guy was one of the leaders in sacks last season. It stinks. I'm not a Bengals fan by any means, but I mean, this guy was awesome to watch.
I think it's shocking. I mean, his production,
I feel like he's retiring at the peak of his career. I mean, it's really unfortunate to see. I don't know why he is retiring. There's been no news of it being a medical retirement. So yeah, it's unfortunate.
The only thing that I saw is that he's had a lot of, just in general, a very big injury history, which I believe is alluding to most likely why he's made this decision. But yeah, nothing could really be set in stone.
Yeah.
Mike, I think you're mixing the guys up. Sam Hubbard is not Trey. You're thinking about Trey Hendrickson when you say sack leader. Sam Hubbard, he's the other guy.
Jesus, it's been a rough day.
Well, Sam Hubbard was
productive though.
Extremely productive though.
He was. No, I guess because he had two sacks. No, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, no, he has been, and he's only been in the league for 7 years. So it's shocking that
29, man. I mean,
yeah, man, yeah.
It's unfortunate to see. Yeah.
Now, the guy you were referring to, now that would have been a major hit.
Yeah.
But
I think it's going to be a major hit for the Bengals. I still think it's going to be a major hit.
I do too.
Mean, when he's on the field, he contributes tremendously for that pass rush.
Yeah, I mean, he's had some years where he was extremely productive.
I agree.
And he was a captain.
Yeah, that's important.
That's another thing too. He was one of the captains on the team. I mean, so it for those who don't follow football as closely, you may not be familiar with him, but this was a player that was excuse me. Now that he's retired, was always making an impact on the field, whether he was the one making the play or not, right? Whether they have to double team him when blocking, something of the sorts. I'm sure that Hendrickson fed off of his play as well. And we know that happens often in the NFL when you have a Batman and a Robin that can go a long way. And unfortunately, that I think that Christopher's right. The Bengals are taking a big hit here.
Yeah. In any business, man, they don't get talked about enough, but certain guys who, show humility and are willing to lead others and not expect anything from it. He was kind of one of those guys, he's not going to ask for much. He's going to be a team player, which is why he was voted captain. In any industry, you get a guy like that, you want to try and keep. So to lose him, they lose a lot of leadership in the locker room.
Yeah. Big time.
Yeah,
big time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have some exciting news with DK Metcalf and Alan Lazard requesting trades. What do you guys think about this?
I thought at first it was shocking. I didn't realize, and we'll get into it. Prior to him requesting the trade, they let go of Tyler Lockett.
Yeah. Wow.
So I don't know if he thought since that happened, maybe they're looking to kind of rebuild more. So I don't know, but I was not expecting to see that. I thought like he's their primary option. Didn't have the best year last year. I get it, but I did not see this coming. So we'll see what happens with him, man. I think he's the top free agent on the market at this point. So we'll get into T. Higgins later, but like at this point, I think all teams would kind of be like, hey, show some interest. Depends on what the Seahawks are asking for. But I think, I'm
think
shocked
that I'm gonna just say it right now. I think that he's a future New England Patriot. I'm saying it right now. DK Metcalf to the Patriots.
I could see it. They need a weapon. It's in the NFC. It's going from the NFC to the AFC. I could see it. I mean, he did say that he wanted to play for a contender, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he has a no trade clause, so I don't think he gets to make that determination whatsoever. Might be one of those careful what you ask for type of things, but
yeah, he did say he wants a contender, but like you said, I mean, I think the Patriots are going to do a lot in their power to get Drake May a target, and I think that this opens up that opportunity because, like you said, we're going to get to some of the other guys, later on, but he's one of the top available wide receivers if he's testing the market, if the Seahawks are going to end up trading him.
Yeah. Well, I'm not surprised about Lazard, by the way.
Why not the Raiders? He pairs back up with Pete Carroll.
That's true.
That's
a good one. That's a good one. I think that
that's a great point.
I think the teams are going to go after him. Definitely. I just think that the Patriots are on a market where I feel like we had a more wide receiver options, and it's starting to already get slimmer. So
I just don't. The Seahawks are just interesting. You let go of your most consistent wide receiver year after year after year, and now you have your disgruntled number one option that wants out, leaving you just with Jackson Smith and Najigba, who I think he's ascending, and he's definitely gonna have an even better year this upcoming year if they have good quarterback play. But you got a guy who did not perform well last year, or as well as he should have, and he's asking to be traded. So that this gives away a lot of their leverage. So I think that a team is going to swoop up in there, and you're going to be like, damn, are you kidding me? They only spent this much on DK, and that's what's going to happen. If Debo went for like a fifth, DK you might get DK for a sixth, dude.
Yeah.
Think about it. Think about it. Who's been a bigger playmaker of the two?
Dude, if that's what you're getting, every team should be calling the Seahawks.
Completely.
That's what you have to give up. Every team should be calling. I don't care who you have on your team. For six, everyone should be calling. Dude, if I don't see somewhere, Panthers had interest and they just didn't.
I was going to say Giants, wake up.
Yeah, everyone needs. I need to see.
Oh my god!
When I go on Panthers Instagram, Panthers attempted to get DK. I can live with that, but I don't want to see. They didn't even attempt. Everyone should be going after this guy, especially after the whole Debo Samuel move.
I completely agree, and that's my point, right? If Debo has been the more productive player of recent, and he requested a trade and wanted to be out, and he went for a fifth, I just don't see how DK is going to go anything for more than anything than a fifth.
Yeah,
at the most. I mean, but anyway, I just find that interesting.
Real quick before we pivot, Allen Lazard requesting a trade. I think it's interesting because I think there's a lot of free agent wide receivers, and I don't think he's atop the list. So what do you guys think the market value is for him? He's competing with a lot of mid-tier guys. Yeah.
I mean, dude, we just talked about.
I think a 6 is more realistic for him after you see Debo Samuel go for a fifth.
Who?
For DK or Allen Lazard?
Allen Lazard.
Allen Lazard is going to get released. I don't see.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't see they give up anything for him.
Yes. I don't think no one's trading for Allen Lazard, dude.
Yeah.
Nobody's trading for Allen Lazard. Maybe 7th round in 2031.
Publicly that the Jets are giving Allen Lazard permission to seek a trade. So it sounds like they want to still try and trade him. Whether it happens,
well, of course,
or not,
if you can get something for him, you will. But I just don't see. I really don't think that he. I mean, Chris, if you're a GM and you know that Debo is out there going for a fifth, you got
I wouldn't do
DK,
it. I'm not
who's going to probably give me a fifth or a sixth. Cooper Kupp is probably going to be a 5th or a 6th. Then you got Alan Lazard. I'm not spending anything on him.
No,
He hasn't
I
been
agree.
productive in multiple years now.
I do agree.
You know,
And I think you might have mentioned Debo's name at one point, but Debo Samuel getting traded to the Commanders, huge, and that was the 5th round pick that we're referring to, and what an impact he's going to make on the Commanders with Jaden Daniels, and Terry McLaurin. But I just think the combo between them, it's going to be.
Yeah.
It's a fun time to be a Commanders fan if you're a Commanders fan. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. And you know what adds extra spice to all that is that he apparently him and what's the Eagle safety's name? Crap. You know what I'm talking about. The Eagle safety, the free safety. Oh, he's probably the one in the box. Well, apparently him and the safety,
Blankenship?
they have a
Who
long
was it?
Huh?
Blankenship? Who was it? I'm trying to think of the
No. Oh my gosh. He plays with an attitude. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on his name. But him and Debo have a
safety.
long
CJ
history.
Gardner Johnson?
Yeah, they do not like each other, dude. They do not, and it's been like publicized. So
But
I think
him
it's
and
interesting that he
Debo?
goes,
Yeah, I know.
yeah. So he goes to the Commanders. It's gonna be a fight. Like so,
It's going to be another OBJ versus
Josh
what-
Norman.
Josh Norman. Yeah, bro. It's gonna be. Hey, listen, as long as the Giants aren't involved, I'm fine. Right,
Hey, you
so
probably
for-
love this bloodbath.
Yeah. I mean, oh god, dude, it's tough being a Giants fan seeing this. I mean, not only do the Giants have to now play him twice, but it puts you like I saw a lot of different like joking around posts just saying like, well, this pretty much confirms the Giants will be the doormat of the NFC East for the next 5 to 10 years. I don't want to totally say that that's true because we know that, every given year, some team just turns it around and all of a sudden is great. And I'm not saying the Giants are going to do that by any means, but I'm hoping that
Fair.
this means that they're going to be good.
I'm
It
hoping
brings more
that Washington
mediocrity
had
to the NFC East, and then if the Cowboys continue to stink, maybe I don't know. Giants
I
can do
think
something.
the Eagles are going to show up. I'm curious to see if Washington's one and done, and they're not as consistent. It kind of makes me think of when the Bengals went to the Super Bowl, and then they haven't been. I mean, they're a good team, but they're not that team.
Bro, sophomore blues for
So-
quarterbacks is a real thing, right? Like, look at CJ Stroud, rookie year. This guy's incredible. Sophomore blues this past year. It still made it to the playoffs, but they were also in one of the ugliest divisions in football, and they did get a playoff win by some saving grace. They did, but he did not look anything like he did in this first year. So it is possible that Jaden Daniels does not look as good as he did his rookie year, which was the best rookie year of any quarterback of all time. Statistically, but I gotta say, I don't know. I'm not gonna bet against him. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. No, fair, very fair. And just transition here to the Bears. So the Bears obtained Joe Thuney and someone we haven't listed here, Jonah Jackson. Bears traded a 6th-round pick to the Los Angeles Rams for Jonah Jackson and a 4th-round pick to the Kansas City Chiefs for Joe Thuney, completely transforming their offensive line on the interior for both their guard positions, trying to build some protection for Caleb Williams. What are you guys' thoughts on this?
No, those are good moves. I don't know how the hell this is happening. I thought
I don't either.
The new league year started next week.
And it's confirmed between CBS Sports and a few ESPN sources. So I don't understand it either, but
maybe information leaked early, but either way, I think it's a good move for the Bears. You have to protect your franchise guy, and we'll never know what Caleb Williams will do if he can't stay upright. So I think it's a good move.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that it's extremely necessary. The addition of the new head coach, I think, is going to drive these types of changes, right? They are going to prioritize a fantastic offensive line. I mean, look at the Lions in past years. Great offensive line. They built it well up front, and then they were able to create a very productive offense. In theory, if that occurs, the Bears could be a very exciting football team.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. I agree. I do think that could definitely, I think it could happen. Now, transitioning to a few other players that got released. We've got Davante Adams, Tyler Lockett, Christian Kirk, blowing the wide receiver market wide open, Minshew Mania, and Darius Slayton. Does Davante Adams end up on a team again with Aaron Rodgers?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about with Aaron Rodgers, but I know he'll play.
I think that Davante Adams is, in my eyes, the clear number one receiver in this free agency market. And so there's no reason you don't think so?
Oh, well, yeah, I guess if Debo
free agent,
I guess, yeah. So yeah,
he's the best free agent wide receiver.
Against his franchise.
Well, no, he got franchise. No, yeah. Mm-hmm. He's franchise. So I don't think he needs to rush. Whereas another guy like Tyler Lockett, he's getting up there in age. I don't know how well the market's going to be for him versus a Davante Adams. I think all three of these wide receivers will be on a team, but you can converse with A-Rod, wait for Rodgers to sign, and then see if a team wants to sign him. I mean, listen, you're not pulling this whole thing that the Jets did, where the Jets brought in all these people just for Aaron Rodgers. That's not what's going to happen here. But historically, we've seen that Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers play best when they play together. And when the Jets obtained Davante Adams, his production went up from where he was at the Raiders, and Aaron Rodgers also was actually moving the ball downfield. Not well, but it still worked. So I don't think that hurts a team. I think it's something worth pursuing. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I have mixed feelings about it because of what you said, because of, basically Aaron Rodgers turned the Jets into the Packers, and I know the teams aren't going to want that to happen again.
That's never going to happen
Aaron
again.
Rodgers.
That'll never happen again.
So I'm not saying that they shouldn't play together, but I do think that teams aren't going to be like, they're not jumping on a package deal. I think the possibility is very, it's possible. It's not, but I don't think it's like, oh, we're getting Aaron Rodgers, so we're definitely getting Davante Adams. I think they're going to feel it out. And it also depends where he goes, because for all we know, he goes to Minnesota. And I don't see Minnesota, worrying about that with their wide receivers. So I think it just depends on where he goes.
Man, there's just saying good times don't last forever. Let the times they had in Green Bay be that, man. Like, go do your own thing, and I go do mine. Like, you're older, man. You're almost ancient, and I'm still chasing you around to be my quarterback. Come on, like, I personally don't like it. I'm like, dude, you'll have options. You could potentially find a suitor.
Can you imagine Davante Adams going to a contending team and how he could make a huge impact on that offense, like the Chiefs, the Ravens, like contending teams.
So where do we see a good fit for him?
For Davante
Adams?
Yeah. Anybody else?
That's my point. Yeah, he can go anywhere.
He can go anywhere on a contending team. He's still.
Give me one, because he's got to play with a good quarterback that can get him the football.
Honestly, I just said the Chiefs.
We can't have the Raiders happen.
The more I like it.
Who?
Imagine him with Mahomes. I mean, that would be. I don't know.
Ew.
Why? But that is an option.
Why?
Yeah, the Chargers.
I don't know. When the Chargers.
Why?
I want them on the Bucks.
Why? Ew. I want to hear this.
Because
that's an option.
Because I don't know. When certain team like the Tennessee Titans, where like wide receivers' careers go to like plummet, I feel like the Chiefs are becoming that.
I mean, the Chiefs still haven't got
how bad DeAndre Hopkins played for them.
The Chiefs still don't have a number one receiver like they had with Tyreek Hill, right?
Yeah, I know. Since he left, it's like he cursed them. And I don't want to see Davante Adams, who now is on the back end of his career, turn into the next D-Hop. I just don't want to see it. Go to a place like the Buccaneers where you can be a number two to Mike Evans, and you will flourish. Let Baker let's let Baker go, man.
I'm curious to know what are your thoughts with Devontae Adams, Tyler Lockett, Christian Kirk, and even Darius Slay. Do you think that any of these wide receivers are a good fit for the Steelers, opposite side of George Pickens? Because they need another weapon.
Well, Darius Slay should be on the Giants because the Giants desperately need a cornerback. But
yeah, I don't know why I was thinking of.
No, that's okay. But so he Darius Slay. There's so many places for him. So many places for him. He's on the back end of his career, but there's so many teams that need help in the secondary that if you sign him as a number 2 corner, I think that he has a lot of value. He's just not the number 1 guy anymore. What are your thoughts on that, MJB?
You talking about for
Darius Slay?
Tyler Lockett or Darius Slay? Yeah, I think he could be. If you have a team that has a solid number 1 corner, like how the Broncos have, the Panthers, but you know what I'm saying is if you have a team that has a solid number 1 corner, I think he'd be a viable number 2 option.
Yeah, I agree.
Only will he bring leadership, but he can also play, and he can catapult the secondary. Yeah, I think he can still play. He can catapult that secondary.
He is a solid number 2 corner that can play for a team in this league. I completely agree. The Eagles, they just don't want to pay him, and they're 2 rookies balled out. So this is them just managing the cap,
Yeah, I think Devontae can go to a contender. I think Tyler Lockett, I think he'll find a place anywhere because I think, he's 32, but he's a locker room guy, and I think teams value that. I think Christian Kirk got the money that he was going to get, and I'm glad for him because I think that time's over.
Yeah, that is over.
He may not make it out of this. He may not make it out of this alive, man.
You think he goes unsigned?
No, he'll definitely be signed, but I just don't think he's gonna. I think he thinks that his market is a lot higher than it actually is, and he's gonna find out that people don't value him that way. I didn't value him that way when he went to the Jags, so
most people didn't.
Crazy.
Most people didn't. I think that you're looking at. I think he's signing a 1-year deal, dude. A prove it deal. I could. Where I see him landing, because there's other wide receivers that are better in the market that that these fans are wishing that they're going to go after. Make a trade for DK, do something. They'll sign Christian Kirk, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay,
I see him landing.
That was my ultimate question. Out of these 3, do you see one of them going to the Steelers?
Oh, that was your question? Yeah.
You completely went right over that.
If any of them went, I would say Tyler Lockett. I think he's just more consistent than Christian Kirk. They need consistency. Christian Kirk drops passes, man, and
I agree with you. What I think is best versus what I think is going to happen are 2 different things. I think that after Devontae Adams, Tyler Lockett is easily the most reliable wide receiver in the free agency market. That guy is, if you have a 3rd down, you look for that guy and you're going to convert if you get the ball within, anywhere around him. He is, for anyone who's a former wide receiver, current wide receiver, you watch that guy run routes, you watch him catch footballs. He is a stud at the wide receiver position. I just don't even understand why they released him. Like, this is a guy that you want to have a part of your team. Which is why I think it's funny because the Steelers won't go and get him. I think that they'll go for Christian Kirk. But
that's interesting. That's interesting. We've got 2 guys that were franchise tagged, both Trey Smith and T. Higgins. T. Higgins probably being the biggest splash the most to the wide receiver market, who he was probably the number 1 wide receiver free agency until being tagged. I think part of the tagging for Trey Smith also was probably part of the trade that the Chiefs had Joe Thuney go to the Bears, and Sam Darnold hitting the market. What do you guys think about this?
I'm very intrigued with T. I feel it's unfortunate for T. Higgins that he got tagged again.
It's terrible.
I'm like, man, this guy's done everything he's supposed to do. I don't think that they should be allowed to do that more than once, dude. I'm sorry.
I completely agree. That's the biggest news for me.
One time is fine. You can't keep doing that. Like, you're hindering this guy from making money.
They're doing the Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, and it's terrible. If he gets hurt this upcoming season, his stock value plummets, and now he can't make that money on the back end anymore. So I hate that.
I mean,
him.
I completely
the
agree.
Bengals said they did franchise tag him with the hopes to coming to a long-term deal before the season starts.
But that's always the case.
Yeah, I don't see it happening
I
because
agree.
You're gonna sign him to that long-term deal. Then what do you do with Jamar? He's coming up.
Yeah.
And you're gonna tell me that you're not gonna prioritize signing Jamar? You can make an argument that Jamar is top 2 in the league, dude.
And let me tell you, after seeing interviews with Jamar ain't taking no pay cut.
No, bro. Well, he knows his value.
He lost that money.
Yeah. So if you sign T. Higgins, there's no way that you're going to be able to afford him, Burrow, and Jamar Chase. I think that so much money is going to be backloaded into those 3 players. I don't know how much that's going to crush them across the cap, for the remainder of the team. I think what we might find is that they tagged him. If they do re-sign him, they're going to pull a Gettleman with Odell Beckham, sign him to a contract. That way he's under contract and then trade him. Get a lot of value from him. They're not going to let the guy walk into free agency. You know that this is the best wide receiver that is basically out there right now. I mean, he's a stud, and he's playing as a number 2. He's a number 1 on most teams. Someone goes and trades for him, and if he's under contract already, you're set. Or they franchise tag him, and then they do one of those things where they trade, and in that trade, the contract's also negotiated, and that's the only way that the trade goes through. So that way you're guaranteeing that he stays on your team. That's the only thing I could see that happens. We'll see. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in terms of Sam Darnold, I think that there'll be a market for him. I think that he played well enough to warrant a starting job opportunity elsewhere. I find the Vikings. I kind of understand why they aren't doing it. Like, you saw Sam Darnold, he played well, but he's not going to get you to the promised land. So it's like, do you invest that kind of money in him? I'd rather him test the market. If he finds out that his value is at a certain rate, then we can bring him back for cheaper. If not, then, best of luck to you elsewhere. But I don't think Sam Darnold's that great to be like, oh, well, we're missing out on anything. You're not missing out on a lot. Like, he played consistent, but we know that in the end, he's not the guy that's going to get you to the promised land.
I think for the longevity of Sam Darnold, I believe he needs to find a way to stay in Minnesota. I think he's been most successful there, obviously. I mean, he has been throughout his career.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
And I think it would be a loss for him to not try to resign.
The thing is, man, you gotta get the money. If you're Sam Darnold, you're not making these big contracts that some of these other players are. And if they're already not tagging you, then that means that, okay, we don't know. Are they negotiating a contract with him right now? We have no idea. There hasn't been much talk of that. It's been more of like, oh, he's going to be available in free agency. It doesn't mean that they're not going to try to re-sign him, but you got JJ McCarthy coming back, right? And that's supposed to be the future. You don't want him to Alex Smith himself. He signs again there with the Vikings, and then he gets benched if he doesn't do well after just 2 games. And then now JJ McCarthy takes a spot, and now his ability to sign a bigger contract with someone else doesn't happen. So if he has the ability to sign a big contract, 3-4 year deal elsewhere on one of these quarterback needy teams, because the mediocrity at quarterback in this league is insane, I think he's got to do it.
I just feel like it's going to be a repeat of Kirk Cousins last year.
Which goes to say, which then also tells me, like, if that's the case, how much of it is Sam Darnold versus is it the system?
Yeah, I mean,
if it's a system, then why spend the money on him when you have your rookie quarterback that sat for a whole year, learned the system, and then if you have confidence in him, you don't need to pay this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of possibilities, and free agency is going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But yeah, I want to move on to some contract extensions. Max Crosby getting one of the biggest contracts, $106 million for 3 years. Highest paid non-quarterback, I believe, now. And the Eagles extending both Zach Ball and their linebacker for $51 million 3 years. And everybody knows the splash Saquon's made, so he got $41 million for 2 years. I think that's huge. And doesn't stop there. The Dallas Cowboys in their defensive tackle, I'm gonna butcher the last name, Odizwa, signed an $80 million contract extension for 4 years. So a lot of action going on between the Eagles and just defense in general. What signing jumps out to you guys the most here?
Well, obviously the Saquon one. I think that I'm happy for him, man. I think that he got what he deserved. He earned that paycheck, So, and I think it's pretty interesting to see. Well, Zach Bowen and Saquon Barkley. Well, there's your Darius Slay release, right? Like, to be able to extend these guys, you had to free up cap space, and that's why Darius Slay's packing his bags. But I think that for someone who's a big football fan that's followed it for, since we were little, Dr. MJB and I talk about this all the time. Our opinion is that the game today is not what it used to be. And that the game back then, when we had the Steve Smith, Randy Moss, you had Peyton, you had Eli, but Randy Moss, the NFL was better. You know what was also valued a lot more? The NFL running back. And the ability to run a pro-style type of offense, run the football, and then that creates play action, the ability to throw the passes that we missed, the downfield pass, all these fun things. So I'm hopeful that maybe this is a new way of looking at, the running back as and players as a weapon, and that maybe that can start to bring more value to the running back position.
Yeah, it's been well documented how much we hate the Eagles, but this is one of those moves that I was just like, man, I respect you guys for it. Still hate you, but I respect you guys for it because you guys are showing that you value Saquon and what he did for you last year. And I ultimately respect that. Still don't want any success for the Eagles at all in no shape or form, but this was commendable. And I was like, I respect that move. He deserved it.
Oh, yeah, he deserved it. I think he completely transformed the Eagles were great as, beforehand, but the running game to a whole nother level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you guys think about Max Crosby?
Same thing for all these guys. Max Crosby deserved it. Zach Bond deserved it. And also they all deserved it. I'm glad they got their money. And you keep these guys on your team ahead of the new league year. So it just shows that, these teams value those guys' production and are willing to extend them longer to help.
I completely
agree to build their team.
Who doesn't want Max Crosby? Right? Like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. It's just like that's his story, dealing with the addiction that he did, overcame it.
Yeah,
it literally prioritizes work ethic. His whole life is about work ethic and doing what he needs to be able. Like, his motor is the best you've ever seen. I mean, like, the guy is given 110% on every play.
Yeah.
How do you not want that's contagious? How do you not want that in your locker room? Pete Carroll's now there. They changed that entire dynamic within that organization. You got Tom Brady bringing some of his influence in and his want to win and his work ethic. I think that this is not just the signing of a guy who's honestly one of the best at the position in the league, but it's a cultural move where you're saying this is the type of team that we are going to be and what we want to embody. And by being this way, this is what and being productive in this manner is what's going to get you paid. And I think that it's awesome to see that that he had that success and that happened. If only these contracts and the hard work was, provided in the physical therapy field, that'd be great.
And
man,
for all that hard work that we do and blood, sweat, and tears, with that mentality, it's not reflected in the physical therapy field. But hey, with the Las Vegas Raiders, it is okay. And for them, I commend that.
Well,
and let the church say amen.
The Cowboys making additional moves aside from Osa. they decided to restructure both Dak and CD to create $56.6 million in cap space. I mean, big move. They've got a lot of holes to fill, so hopefully this helps them in free agency. It'll be interesting.
I found this very interesting just because they just got these contracts, and we're already having to restructure them. So I just found it interesting. They got to do it. They're on a trajectory that's going to lead them to be worse than the New York Giants if they don't start doing something, which is pretty bad. And that's a division that you now have the extremely powerful Commanders with their offseason moves already, and then we already know about the Eagles. So this is necessary.
I think that's why.
100%. 100%. Yeah. I just found it interesting that, like, when you signed these guys last year, did you really think that just by signing them and not making any offseason moves last season that you were really going to go right to the promised land, to the Super Bowl? Because that's what that tells me, which tells me, like, are you really misreading the room and the talent on your team? Like, I just don't know. I don't know. Yeah. Now all in 1 year we have to restructure both of these giant contracts already.
I think it's just a game. I just think it's a finance game, and they're still getting paid one way or another, and it's just a way for them to, I just think that part of it's that's just part of the business side of it, and it's just a game. But it could have been their plan. Who knows?
But they realize the window's closing, man. Eagles are already there, right? They got the Super Bowl, so there's not much they need to change.
Washington jumped up as the second best team.
Commanders they're on their way. Yeah. So it's like, holy crap! They're like, we got to keep up within our division. Not even talking about
done in the NFC.
League.
Yeah,
we got to.
Who
keep
the hell
up,
are the Giants? Holy moly!
So it's like we have to make moves now. I honestly think if the Cowboys don't have a decent year, I think a lot of it's blown up. I think they're gonna blow a lot of it up, man.
Yeah, they might.
Yeah, I mean,
it's crazy that they haven't been producing more, because the talent on that roster the past few years it's been there. So,
yeah, I think that they're on the decline, man. I think that they are. I mean,
yeah, it's interesting.
We just learned last week that Zach Martin retired. I mean, if you put down that entire roster, who is the number one player on their roster? Okay, Micah Parsons. You could argue that Zach Martin was number one. If not, he's number two. So, like, you just lost one of your best players, over the last X amount of years just to retirement. You're already having to restructure the two biggest contracts on the team just to try to afford other players, because you're on a slippery slope. I mean, I'm fine with it because I ain't no fan of the Cowboys, but I just find it interesting. We'll see how they do.
Yeah, I mean, they created $54 million to spend in free agency, so I still think they're figuring it out, but it'll be interesting.
Oh, they're gonna have to.
And one of the biggest topics that have been kind of on the radar the past few weeks was Matthew Stafford potentially going to the Giants or the Raiders, and he's now retained by the Los Angeles Rams, and they figured out a way to restructure his deal. Matthew Stafford sounded like he didn't want to leave. But the Rams are still looking to shop Cooper Kupp. What do you guys think?
In terms of Matthew Stafford, I think that it's a double-edged sword. I think that the Rams did like him enough to want to keep him, but I also think that there was not much better out there. So it's like we can't really pivot if we wanted to. So
100%.
It was interesting.
Where are you going with this, Jimmy G?
I was listening to Sean McVay, the Rams head coach, on Pat McAfee's show, and they were talking about how they were one play away from beating the Eagles in the playoffs, which they were.
They were.
And so it's kind of crazy to think that you're one play away from beating the Super Bowl champion, and you're looking to shop your quarterback. I don't even know why they got to that point.
It's a really good point. That's a really good point.
Like you basically said that you're a Super Bowl contending team if you beat the Eagles, right there. Like, you're going to the Super Bowl, right? So I don't know. That's a really interesting, or NFC Championship game at least, excuse me. But I don't know. It's just really interesting to even be shopping him, but I believe he made the best move for himself. I don't think he would have been happy on either one of those other teams. So.
Well, I will say this, man. The Rams are doing it the right way. They went to the top. kind of eased down a little bit, but then they found a way to rebuild while also keeping some veteran pieces. And it's like whatever they're doing, man, teams need to emulate, because teams
100%.
go bad and they go bad for 10 years. And it's like, how the hell did that happen? They were bad a year or two, and then like they're right back in the playoffs. And I was like, man, this is crazy. Like, why is my team not doing this? I don't understand. The blueprint is out.
Well said.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
Well said. Yeah, I completely agree.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember like the last year or two, just like the Rams GMs just trading every draft pick away for veterans.
Right.
It just worked out. I guess it just worked out for them.
But it's crazy because he gave away everything, and then
everything.
They were bad for 2 years, and then they're good, and then us, we don't trade stuff, and then we're bad for 10 years. And I'm like, I don't get it. Like,
yeah,
it's crazy.
It's interesting.
Man.
I'm speechless because I have everything you said is just so accurate, and I got no answers for you. Just
I think in terms of Cooper Kupp, I think the Rams are smart. They're gonna do what they did similarly to Matthew Stafford. I think they're gonna, see what's out there, see what contracts guys are getting and things like that, and then kind of I think they find a way to renegotiate with Cooper Kupp and have him stay. I think that's priority one. Kind of see what the market does. If
2 years ago, he was, or 3 years ago, was it 2 years ago, 3 years ago when he won the Triple Crown, he was like Stafford's best target. Like, this is just interesting to me. Like, he's finally healthy, and now you want to shop him, but he's finally healthy.
Yeah,
I mean, is he?
They're just moving on to Puka.
He played a full season, but I mean, I don't know. I mean,
the
last couple of years is. In terms of injuries, not production.
No, that's true.
It's true. Well, we definitely want to go over some of the NFL Combine. I'm going to let Dr. Mikey B take it away. We're going to go over a winner and loser, and reflect on what do you guys think.
All right, so NFL Combine has come to an end. Okay, and it came quick this year, guys. I was just talking to one of my coworkers earlier today, and he and I, as you and our listeners know, we have the privilege of doing the medical for one of the NFL Combine prep companies, the top one here in New Jersey. And last year I felt like it went on for a while. This year I feel like I blinked and it's over. And so it's exciting that this means that we're moving forward in the off season, getting closer to the draft. We have now a bunch of pro days coming up, which will be fun to see. And, with the NFL Combine, and I bring all that up because having the ability to work with a lot of these athletes, many of the athletes that I work with were not at the NFL Combine, right? They're preparing for their pro day. And I bring this up because when I talk about my loser here for the NFL Combine, a topic came up that I feel pretty strongly about. And so when the quarterbacks went on Saturday, Will Howard, the quarterback for Ohio State University, the national champion, he didn't play well, he didn't perform well. So his passing, he completed almost no pass, like just maybe 2 or 3 passes. Like, he was terrible. Like, he apparently had the worst combine showing of a quarterback that in the ages. And so he's been getting ripped on it. And so now since then, now they're saying, oh, well, we can't talk about these guys' performances like that because then these athletes, when they're invited to the combine, they're just going to continue to choose not to throw, not to perform like guys like Shedeur Sanders didn't throw, right? So, because if they're playing well, they're going to choose not to worsen their potential draft grade by not performing. These guys are getting an invitation to be on the biggest stage to perform. It's the biggest tryout. There's no way I'm okay with us not criticizing their performance. These guys would kill to get criticized, the ones that didn't get the invitation. So I understand when guys are saying that, oh, I'm not going to perform because it could hurt my draft stock. And I get that. You're still going to go. You're going to do your interviews. I totally understand. But now that we have to be careful on how we're judging their performance because we're afraid that guys aren't going to play, I just think it was ridiculous. I think, how soft can we be? I mean, the guy was still a national champion. Did he have a terrible tryout? Sure. Those of us who know football very well know that if the ball is in the relative spot, during the combine, it's good. You've never thrown to these receivers before. A lot of these are timing routes. So you know that if the timing's not there, it's not going to be a perfect passing catch. That's okay. Do I think this is going to crush his draft stock? I have no idea. Look at Bo Nix. He did not throw well in the combine last year. Sean Payton was interviewed about this because he was the Broncos' number one overall pick. The kid was a stud. His numbers were just like Jaden Daniels, just below. He got nowhere near as much recognition as he should have. And they still had complete conviction. What did Sean Payton said? He said, this is just one of many tryouts that these guys are going to get. And after he didn't throw well, then he brought him in, and they did a private workout. He did great at the private workout. His interviews were stellar. All the film showed what he can do. And they're like, they knew going into draft night that that's their guy. And he didn't throw well in the combine. So my point is that, like, with the Will Howard thing, like, guys should still go and compete. It's okay. Like, you want to show off. It's a big tryout. But for us to now not be able to criticize their performance, I think is ridiculous. What are you guys' thoughts on this?
Any Will Howard in any draft should participate.
Thank you.
The reward versus risk is so minimal, but the potential 100%. For reward could be astronomical, right?
Yes.
So like you can drop stock. Yeah, you can drop.
He's a national champion.
5-6 slots, but you can catapult yourself into the first round with your performance. So like that's baloney. I think the risk reward is much greater towards the reward, and so because of that, you harp on the moment and play your best. And no one's, like you said, no one's expecting spot on passes, dude. Like, you don't know these guys. We all know these guys have unbelievable speed. Some guys do extra maneuvers when running routes instead of just running a route. Like, that's not on you. You didn't know that guy was gonna take 6 extra steps. So like we understand that. Yeah, I think it's crazy. I never cared too much about the passing portion of it. Obviously, if you look bad and you're just like throwing over guys' heads and crazy things like that is one thing, but I'm more concerned about the interview process when it comes to quarterbacks and things like that, because the film doesn't lie. If you can play, you can play.
Yeah,
me seeing them shorts is not going to change my mind about that.
I completely agree. It's about the interviews, the medical, all of that stuff that goes on on this. So it does not hurt them to perform and throw. It's only going to really benefit them, and I completely agree. And yeah, I just bring this up because with one of our top prospects who I was treating today, and he is a quarterback, we had a good lengthy conversation with two of the other guys today. So the three of our athletes and myself were having this conversation, and we got into really good conversation. We all agreed. They said everything that we said today, they completely agree. So I just found it interesting that like these talks on ESPN and NFL network and everything about like having to avoid these criticisms, I think is absolutely baloney. It's terrible. Let me pivot to a more positive discussion here. Matthew Golden, wide receiver, Texas. Guys, we all watched him this year.
He looked
especially in the college football playoff. The guy's a stud. He's clutch. That catch he had against Arizona State in like, what was it, double, triple overtime? Like, this guy is a stud. So exciting to watch. And coming in, right, he's like, oh, who's the number one? Isaiah Bond or him? We don't know, X, Y, and Z. This guy runs a 4.29 40. I had no idea that he had that type of speed. I had no idea. I knew he could run routes. I knew he could catch the ball so well. A 4.29? Bro, I am excited for when we do our draft prep and we start looking at the wide receivers, because I know that he's going to be high up on my board.
But what's crazy is even when I went back and watched his highlights, he doesn't even play like he runs that. Like,
no, so like, I know.
Isaiah Bond plays faster than him. If we're being honest, like when you watch it, you're going to be like, that's interesting. I don't know if he has longer strides, that's why it looks that way. But like, you would have told me when I watched his highlights, I'm like, that's a 4.29, man. He must be deceptively fast, because it just looks different. It just looks different.
I completely agree.
I saw that. Shocked. I said, holy crap.
To me, this was the best example of how going to the NFL Combine can boost your stock, because the guy had the film, looked great. No one that I know of knew that he ran a 4.29, and then he goes and does that. Whoa.
Yeah, that was sensational.
So awesome. So that's
I was
my
impressed
winner
with
and
the
loser.
college football playoffs because I was watching him. He stood out significantly.
He was a stud, dude.
Yeah, I expect
very
him
exciting
to do very big things.
Yeah, absolutely.
MJB, what do you got for us?
So for my combine recap, I have my winners being every single running back that participated. My goodness, dude, guys I've never heard of, guys I knew, everyone just did sensational. Like, and I'm talking strictly 40. Every guy that went up, didn't matter if he was 5'6", 210, or 6'3", 240, 4'4". And I was like, this is crazy. Like so, but that goes to show you that when draft time comes around, that there's a lot of depth and value in this draft.
Yes.
Listen, I don't care if you have your running back or you think you do.
You got to take one
still
in this round and later
yeah,
on. Yeah,
you can
100%.
you still every
Stock
team should
up,
leave
dude.
this. Every team should leave this draft with a running back, and if you don't, you're missing out because it's that deep, dude. You can get a starter in the 4th, 5th round at running back. It's
absolutely
it's that deep of a class.
Absolutely.
Class.
So that brings up a big question for me. You're a GM on the clock. Your running back room is Are you going to spend a 1st round draft pick on Jainty?
No.
I don't think you can.
No.
With all this talent at running back, Christopher wants to. He's ready. He's ready to put it in the car, dude.
I think it depends, right? If you're looking at a team like Dallas Cowboys, he could completely transform that offense. So I think it depends.
Yeah.
I feel like if you take one, I don't know with how deep this class is. I feel like if you're taking one, especially within the top 15, 20 picks, if you're taking
this, right? If you're
saying you're one player,
you're running away.
Yeah, that's how I interpret it.
Which is impossible because you wouldn't be picking in the first 15 if you were.
Yeah, right. Fair.
It's just interesting.
I'm not saying he's not incredible. I'm just saying, man, that class is so deep
because of the depth. It makes it hard. Yeah. It makes it very hard.
I get that. I get that.
But in all honesty, and I think this is where you're going to go with it, Chris. If I'm doing my big board and he just happens to fall there, because talent is talent, right? We can say this running back class.
Yeah, like the thing is Ashton Jainty going to sit in the same level of running backs? I'm not saying his rookie year, but is he going to sit in the same level of running backs as Saquon, Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, like the top tier running backs? Because then if that's the case, I don't see how you don't take him.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's what I'm saying. It depends on where you have him on your board. If he's higher on your board, you had him ranked 8th as overall player in this draft, and you're picking number 18. Like it'd be kind of silly that he's there and you're just gonna let him just fall because he's a running back in the first round. Like, no, you got to take 100%. it. For me, if knowing you have a lot of pressing needs, and clearly if you're picking top 10, 15, you're not one player away. It's like, do you really go for that, or do you take other value somewhere else and then circle back to running backs in a later round? So.
Yeah, no, I don't doubt that.
Well, you can be like Mel Kiper. Mel Kiper, you don't take a running back in the first round.
Ever. According to Mel Kiper. Yeah,
I think
rules are rules.
I was going to say a lot of talk here and there about Shedeur Sanders. You have him listed here as a loser. Tell us why.
Here's my thing, and I'm going to just say it all so all of our viewers can understand, and then I want you guys' opinion on this. So apparently, right? We're not there. So apparently, allegedly. During interviews at the combine, he elected not to give his best performance if he felt like it was a team that he was probably talking to and probably wasn't going to be drafted by him. I don't know if he has some insider, right? Because Dion does have connections in the league. I don't know if he's been told by a team that, hey, we're taking you no matter what when you fall here, which might have made him, approach these interviews the way that he did, kind of nonchalant and not having, much insight or being receptive to what people were saying. I don't know if that's why he approached it that way. But here's my thing. Even if you do know that a team is taking you, right? This is not like us. If we don't like a job in corporate America, right, we can choose to quit and go somewhere else. This is a job of 32. There's no more than that. There's no less than that. It's a job of 32. If you burn bridges now and you don't end up having your entire career from the team that drafts you, now you limit your options for future contracts. And I think that's the part that I feel like Shedeur Sanders is missing. I think that Dion should have definitely prepped him ahead of time before that, because I don't even put the onus on him. I put the onus on father. Like, you knew that he was going in. Yeah, if you guys have some insider, sure. But that at the end of the day, a job's a job. This is a team. This is a league of 32. You don't want to burn bridges and kind of limit your ability to, pivot if that time ever comes, right? So I don't know. I want you guys' thoughts on that.
I mean, from what I've read and from what I've heard rumors, I don't know if they're true, but based on him not throwing at the combine and then how you kind of discussed the interview, I've heard or seen the rumor of him slipping much further down in the first round. Again, I don't know if that's really going to be the case. I think a quarterback needy team is just going to take him if they like him, based on film and college play.
This could be intentional, right?
You know what I mean?
Like,
so
this could be intentional.
Yeah, I mean, I heard that he did not interview well, and it carried over, to not only his interviews, but the talk with the media. And how I'd heard that was from my own inside source. One of my patients works with the media that signs different players. One of their players is Ashton Jeanty. Another is actually Shedeur. And so he was there the entire combine, and he comes back and he tells me when I'm treating him on Monday that as soon as Shedeur Sanders finished his interview talks with the media, and the media was just bashing him. They freaking hated him. Like, he's a pompous asshole. This is what he was telling me. And now he's worried because this is one of their athletes that they're creating this marketing thing for, because they signed 3 big athletes and they do their whole combine thing, and they follow them through the whole draft process. And now he did not get good praise following that. So it's a very interesting thing when this guy should have been going in the top 3, where you said, Chris, I read something that he could still go top 3 or he could fall out of the first round, and you should not be surprised. Both. You should not be surprised of either result, which is insane. That is insane that it could go from one to the other, which tells me that if one of the top teams already had conviction, they're going to go for him. If not, he's slipping. If he doesn't get picked in the top 5, he's gone.
This is one of the hardest drafts to predict. I have no idea. It's very hard to predict because it can go so many different ways.
I saw one where after the combine, they have the Cleveland Browns trading back in at the 30th pick to take Shedeur Sanders, which is hysterical because I'm sure he doesn't want to go there. And you know that him and Dion would prevent that from happening. So it's just very interesting. I don't know. This is going to be a very exciting draft.
It'll be interesting.
I'm very excited. Doc Huddle will be covering this all throughout.
Yeah, and just I guess to kind of go over some of the other quarterbacks that performed at the NFL Combine, Jackson Dart, his accuracy, he's one quarterback where, like you said, throwing, it improved his stock. His draft stock has been improving. Now, I'm not going to say he's, number 2, number 1, whatever, but it's still improving his draft stock to possibly get selected in the first round. I watched him throw. I thought he was very accurate, by the way. And I actually just think his ball flight was interesting. It was instead of for all the deep balls, it was actually more of a line drive, but it was so accurate. It was very interesting. And then something I really wanted to highlight, which, would love to hear both of you guys' thoughts on this, is Jalen Milroe from Alabama. He had 22 completed passes of 56 thrown at the NFL Combine, and his accuracy rating dropped significantly.
Well, I think this goes back to the conversation we had with Will Howard. But here's the difference. Will Howard is a national champion. Will Howard performed very well. And I think even though it wasn't a lights out performance at the quarterback position at OSU, I feel like his quarterback play was a little bit more consistent versus Jalen Milroe going into the combine was a wild card. And what did we learn from this? He's still a wild card.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think too that I don't think it really hurt Jalen Milroe as much just because he came in with accuracy issues. So it was like, oh, well, all right, yeah, that's kind of what we thought. So I think if it, I watched it, man. I watched him at the combine, and I was like, Jesus Christ, he's really missing and it's not even close. So, but I feel like he had those same concerns during the season. So it was like, oh, I just kind of confirmed that he's a project. Whoever takes him, they know they're getting a project. He needs to sit. And, the coaching in the league is a lot better, so they can hone in on that skill set. And hopefully in a couple of years, he can actually contribute. At this point, you're not expecting him to come as a starter. And I don't think anyone did. So I don't think it affected him too much. It was like, all right, well, that's confirm what we saw on tape.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Completely.
It's astonishing the number that you described, but
it's
still
crazy, dude. It's crazy.
That's
that number's nuts.
Yep. Yeah, it is. I completely agree.
But what's crazy is that he is seen as a project, but then you have Anthony Richardson get catapulted to the. I don't understand how that works. It's crazy to me.
I think it's just because his metrics were just so out of this world that they just put more attention to the metrics than they did to the film. I don't have an answer.
So in that case, Milroe should have did all the other things instead of throw.
Well, yeah, 100%. Yeah, if you're this freak athlete that they're saying you are, show us. Unless he didn't think that he was going to be able to produce. But yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I've read a bunch of articles, and just one thing to, highlight with Jalen Milroe. A lot of these articles are saying that he's the biggest boomer bust in the entire NFL draft.
Yeah,
so, for sure. 1,000%.
It'll be 1,000%. So interesting to see how he develops and plays in the NFL.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a thinker. I don't have an answer for you. I will say one last thing. I want to give a quick shout out to another loser of the NFL Combine. I just think that we got to mention Isaiah Bond just because of all of the talk. So Isaiah Bond, he's the Texas wide receiver that played alongside with my winner earlier, right? Matthew Golden. Isaiah Bond, great receiver, good on film, but he made all these giant claims that he was going to break the record of the 40-yard dash that was set by his former teammate who set the record last year, Xavier Worthy, now on the Kansas City Chiefs. Comes in expecting to run, 4.2 flat. The guy runs a 4.4.
Dude, did you see them in the simulcam? It was such a gap that it was just like, yeah, you weren't even close.
And Xavier Worthy ran a 4.21.
Yeah. Yeah, 4.21 is the record. We're expecting this guy to run, 4.25, 4.24, 4.23, trying, getting close, trying to break it. Matthew Goldman ran a 4.29, your teammate, and you ran a 4.4? I got nothing. Next time before you start, building everybody up, come close, okay? You didn't have to beat him, but come close. That wasn't even close. Anyway, so we want to thank everyone for joining us on the Doc Huddle this evening. We want you to stay tuned for upcoming episodes where we're going to be doing our draft grades and breakdowns coming shortly. Until then, for CJ, the sports enthusiast, Dr. MJB, the legend, I'm Dr. Mikey B. We'll see everybody.